Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to CineFix. It is time again for a roundtable. Joining T and I this week, we've got Josh Dickey, entertainment editor for Mashable.
And fourth place finisher in our fantasy box office league.
That's a different show.
This is a whole different Facebook Live thing altogether.
I'm very proud of that fourth place finish.
You should be, man. You worked real hard for it. It was an honorable fourth place, I would say. And also, Jeff Sneider, Mashable's senior movie reporter, is here joining us. This week, what are we talking about this week, guys? We're talking about movies, ironically, that aren't being talked about enough.
Yes.
I just realized in the middle of that
We're
sentence.
trying to bring some balance to the force here.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
There are good movies out there. It's just people aren't talking about them.
I know.
That's right.
They're talking about all the bad movies of the summer because there were some bad ones this
Exactly, but we're here to help you find the diamonds in the rough.
Exactly. And it's super easy to talk about the bad ones.
It's more fun.
It's more, it is and it isn't.
I mean, for me it is.
The bad ones get more money behind them.
No. Well, because they
Why
keep
is that?
making more money, and that's why we can't have nice things.
Let's start with the one that really I bet no one in this room has seen. It's called Cash Only. I saw it on iTunes Movies. It had really striking poster art. It's basically about this Detroit slumlord, and he has a tenant who has not paid him rent. And so he evicts her and then goes through her apartment to sort of see what collateral he can, find. And he finds this bag of money and he takes it. And it turns out the money belongs to some drug dealers and they kidnap his daughter and he has to come after them. And it stars Nicola Shkreli, who also wrote and produced the movie. He's like an Albanian Matthias Schoenaerts or something. The movie's super badass.
That is a deep cut.
Yeah, it's like
the trailer is rough.
Yeah.
Like the trailer. I watched the trailer and I was like, you can have it.
It did get some decent reviews. It just didn't pick up much traction in the marketplace. So I would say if you're looking for a badass, gritty thriller, action thriller to watch one night, give Cash Only a shot.
I first heard of Cash Only just now when it came out of your mouth, so I have nothing to say.
That's how little people are talking about Cash Only.
Josh, what's on yours?
My little talked about and little seen film of this year was very early in the year. I think in January, February, I saw this movie called Creative Control. It's writer-director Benjamin Dickinson. He also stars in the film as an advertising executive. It kind of takes place in, it says 5 minutes from now in the future. And it's about an augmented reality glasses, kind of like Google Glass. And what happens is, during the course of him trying it out, he starts to kind of develop a crush on his best friend's girlfriend. Rather than act out on that, he creates an avatar of his best friend's girlfriend who interacts with him within the augmented reality in his life. And he starts to it starts to mess with his mind a little bit. I went to see it because it's a very Mashable movie. It's sort of like entertainment meets technology. It's in black and white, which is something I don't normally like, but it was a good movie. I thought it was very, very well done.
Yeah, this is another one that the style of it wanted to pull me out of just looking at the trailer. Again, it wanted to pull me out and not take it as seriously because it seemed a little overly stylized with the black and white. But yeah, I really want to see, and I feel like it was about 5 minutes ahead of its time too, because now that we're in a post-Pokemon Go world.
That's right. It's really not that far removed from the way things are right now. Yeah. It's one of those movies that easily could have gone really haywire at some point. There was no point at which you're like, oh, you would never do that. Come on. Yeah. It kind of rides that rail of, this is where things might really go. Makes it interesting. The performances are quite good. I'm sure that it did okay with a certain crowd on the downstream distribution. But yeah, check it out. It's a really interesting movie.
It feels like it's a movie that would have legs on Netflix. One of the movies I watched, I actually just watched it last night, just to do this because
cramming for the test.
I was cramming for the roundtable, but I watched Werner Herzog's new documentary, Lo and Behold, and as far as Werner Herzog's stuff goes, I don't know if this is up there with anything. It's basically about the origins of the internet, right? It's here's where the internet was created. Here's what it is right now. Here's some people that are struggling with it, and there's some really bizarre people that have weird internet addictions and things like that. And then here's how it might all come crumbling down. And there's this really terrifying look at solar flares and how they're going to kill us all, guys. I think, which is nuts. Anyway, point is, it's an interesting look at the internet and how we consume it, and it doesn't make a statement one way or another. It's not like he's like, the internet is very terrible. He's not picking a side. It's just this cold Werner Herzog voice presenting the situation. It's like, no, here's where we're at. just so we're all aware. And so it's a really interesting watch in that regard, because it's like there's some good stuff over here, and then there's some bad stuff over here. But like, you know, just so you know, it might kill all of us.
It feels a bit to me like the perspective of a neophyte looking at the digital world. He obviously doesn't use technology.
Right.
He openly says he doesn't have email. He's never really approached technology. So in that way, it's sort of...
Is that true, though? I swiped right on him on Tinder the other day.
I liked it in that it was a neophyte's view on... It was very sort of cold and detached. Imagine that from the right, but I don't feel like I didn't think it told me anything that I didn't already sort of know.
Yeah.
Almost was like looking at that world through his eyes, and that's an interesting thing to do. As long as we're on documentaries, can I grab for one more second? Michael Jackson, From Motown to Off the Wall, the Spike Lee documentary that came out in Sundance, was the single most electrifying film I've seen in 2016.
Really?
Wow.
I was dancing in my chair. I was like lifted out of my seat the whole time. It is incredible.
Pump the brakes, dude.
What about OJ?
Second place. I'm telling you, dude. That's an amazing documentary. Don't get me wrong. Both of them are worth. But in terms of just having fun in a movie, I saw it with a live midnight audience in Park City,
Right.
And it was it was just the assembly of people he got to talk about Michael and about making that record. They go through it track by track. Each track has its own story, and he has everybody in Michael's world during that time took part in this. It's clear that Spike had a team out there gathering strength for this for a couple of years.
Is that available now?
I don't think so. I don't think it's come out yet, but almost nobody talked about it out of Sundance. It was my favorite movie in Sundance.
T, it's your turn.
Well, my pick, or at least one of my picks, is this movie called Embers. It's a first-time director. I think it was one of those Kickstarter, Indiegogo type of things. And it's a really, really interesting premise. I hesitate to call it sci-fi. It's really more a post-apocalyptic kind of situation where we're in this post-apocalyptic world where there's been some sort of virus that causes everyone to have amnesia on a daily basis. So you forget everything that's happened from the previous day or even just moments before. So this can kick in at any moment where you'll completely forget who you are, where you are, who you're with. And this is just like the situation everyone's in, like no one has memories anymore. So it's a really cool concept because it sort of explores this idea that, our memories are more or less what make us individuals. It's what makes us who we are. So when you don't have those, who do you become? Who are you? So it sort of tracks different characters existing in this situation, which I thought was a bold choice. And they also don't give us any information in the movie that the characters themselves don't have. There's no flashbacks to how this whole virus came about. It's just a lot of really cool, bold choices. And it just made me excited to watch a movie again because I haven't really seen anything like that. So I would definitely check it out. I would say the biggest name cast-wise is Jason Ritter is in it, but for the most part, it's a lot of unknowns.
I'm just curious, if they don't do any flashbacks, how do they establish that this thing happens on a daily basis? Is it just sort of
just through the storytelling?
observation?
Yeah, you just kind of put things together as you're watching the movie and seeing what's happening to the characters. And that movie, Embers, is available on iTunes, and I think all the various platforms where you've got on-demand movies and stuff now. Because when I saw it, it was the absolute last theatrical showcase of it. And from then on, it was going to be
They
available.
burned all the prints and
Done.
Well, I got two more movies on my list.
What are they?
One is Hunt for the Wilderpeople.
I saw that too.
Did you love it?
Not as much as I thought I would, but I liked it very much.
Yeah. It had a lot of buzz at Sundance, and I missed it up there, which I was kicking myself for. I did see it this summer, and I just thought it was delightful. It's Taika Waititi, who just got drafted by Marvel to do the Thor Ragnarok.
drafted.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Conscription.
If you've seen Flight of the Conchords, you sort of know what you're getting with this movie. It will make you laugh. It'll make you cry.
And What We Do in the Shadows is outstanding.
I thought it was
Yeah.
hilarious, yeah. And so it's just like this little fat kid, Julian Dennison, who's he's rebellious. He gets stuck with these foster parents. He decides to run away. His, foster dad or uncle, as he's referred to in the movie, Sam Neill, chases after him into the wilderness, and then they think that he's been kidnapped, and so the police come, and it's just like this really cute, quirky comedy I just had a lot of fun with.
Yeah. And Rhys Darby's in it, and Rhys Darby, I'll watch him do anything.
Right. Sam Neill
really
will
works.
always be Dr. Alan Grant for me because I'm that
too.
particular age. So it's like,
Yeah.
Well, him and the kid have amazing chemistry.
They really
I got
do.
to interview them at Sundance. And in line with the coming-of-age theme, my last film is Kicks, directed by Justin Tipping, which comes out in early September. I highly recommend checking it out at a theater. It's basically about this young black boy. He's a little small for his age. He can't get girls. He can't play sports. But he wants to look fresh. So he saves up. He gets these awesome Air Jordan shoes. Then he gets beat up, and his shoes get stolen one day, and he's like, I've had enough. I'm going to go get those shoes. And it's almost like a revenge movie of sorts in Oakland. And actually, Notorious B.I.G.'s son, Christopher C.J. Wallace, is the lead's friend.
And it looks really visually interesting too. Like, as the trailer has some, like, an astronaut
There's
following
an
him
astronaut
around.
that figures into the plot who sort of represents his imagination and just the idea of masculinity. You know, when you're a young boy, it's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be an astronaut.
Right.
So that's sort of what that represents. What else was on your list?
I've got Don't Think Twice, written and directed and starring Mike Birbiglia. He is a comedian I've been aware of for a long time just through his stand-up. Love him. He did another movie called Sleepwalk with Me, which was based on his memoir. And this one is more just a narrative about a group of improv comedians who one of them breaks off to have much, much more success than the rest. And it just kind of delves into the tensions that creates and just heightened insecurities amongst the rest of them who are still struggling to, kind of have their own big breaks. And I just thought it was wonderfully acted. Keegan-Michael Key is in it. And I would say he was actually, to me, the weak link. He was the one guy, performance-wise, where I just didn't really believe him in the more heavy, serious moments. But I think the rest of the cast was so great. And there's just like a lot of really funny moments in there where you'll see little snippets of them doing a show, and you're just like, I want to be at that show. Like, I want to see the rest of this act. So it's a lot of fun, really good balance of drama and humor.
Mm-hmm. It's being billed as a comedy, and yet I actually think it works best as a drama. And particularly in Los Angeles, where I imagine we have a lot of friends who are, do comedy, that kind of stuff.
Right.
This movie is perfect for LA, New York, and Chicago, where you have a lot of improv performers. But definitely worth a look when that comes out.
Does anybody have more drama than comedians?
Right.
Honestly.
No, well, and that's
Unfortunate
the most confusing thing about movies like this is these movies are always billed as comedies because they're about comedians, but they're like the saddest things of all time, because it's comedy is so stupid and hard, and especially improv comedy.
And this is a really cool look at it for people who maybe don't even understand what goes into all that.
Right, Josh.
Well, I'm not
What do
going
you
to
got?
steal your thunder, mister. You and I basically share one, and I think we've all seen it now at this point.
Yeah, we were talking about The Invitation.
Yes,
right?
The Invitation.
So, I feel like The Invitation got talked about for a minute. Like, it had its minute. So
yeah,
it might not
did, and we've
qualify.
even talked about it, I think, maybe on this show
Yeah.
or on some of our other shows.
So The
Entirely
Invitation
possible.
is another one that if you haven't seen it, it's on, I think it's on Netflix now.
It's everywhere
There's
now,
literally
yeah.
no excuse to not watch it. And I always have a hard time talking about it because the
can't
best
say
review that I saw of it prior to watching it was just, it was a headline that somebody wrote. It was, "Don't let some asshole ruin the invitation for you."
Right.
For the first 20 minutes of that movie, I hated it. I thought it was film school garbage. I was pretty much, I was in the kitchen, like I had given up on it about 15, 20 minutes in. I was in the kitchen doing dishes. And then something happens, and I kind of turned my attention back to it and got back into it. And by the end of the movie, I was crawling up a wall, which never happens to me. Movies don't usually take me away like that.
There hasn't been a movie that I've spent so much time talking about after watching it that I can remember. Like, I honestly don't think I've ever talked about a movie more than The Invitation. Because it's just, I'm like begging people to
You'll
watch
have a
it so
great
I can continue talking.
conversation post-
Yeah,
for sure.
exactly.
It sticks with you. Did you guys have another one that you wanted to discuss?
Yeah,
or-
just one more, which we've also already mentioned on a previous roundtable of just movies we love, was Greenroom for me. One of Anton Yelchin's final roles,
Yeah.
sadly enough. But I just thought that movie was so great. It kind of took a situation and a scenario that we see often in that genre, and it did some interesting things with it. Very engaging. I really liked the casting across the board. It was kind of cool to see Patrick Stewart be a bad guy.
Yeah.
I like the red laces. I mean, there were
Yeah.
elements of that neo-Nazi society that I thought were really interesting.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, it was really good. I think one of the conversations that we had on the channel was about movies that you like in genres that you don't. And this was one for me because typically I don't go in for the just got to survive the night kind of movies. And this one, just I loved it. It was great. I'm not much of a thriller. The shot of Anthony Yelchin's hand,
Oh man.
just like,
Oof.
The
I think I had a
editing's really
nightmare
sharp.
about that like 2 nights ago.
And that's
Yeah.
a practical effect.
Yeah, it was
You don't
gnarly.
see that much of anymore.
Yeah.
So it's a really, really effective. And Patrick Stewart is like, he didn't fall into that like, I'm gonna do a small movie where I get to be a bad guy because that'll be fun and I'll chew up all the scenery and you know, but he didn't. He was
No.
small in a really interesting way.
There were a lot of parallels between this movie and actually Don't Breathe, which just had a huge weekend in terms of the just got to get through the night confinement, and also dogs being an
Also
issue.
dogs.
And this movie, I feel like, just did all of those things a lot better.
Yeah. Anything else? We got anything else? Did we do 10? I think we might have put 10 in the
think
title of
that's
this
10.
video, but we got close to 10,
Roughly
right?
10.
We didn't mention it at the beginning, but we were
10-ish?
trying to come up with 10.
I got nothing else. I hated every other movie I saw.
Great. Good to know. All right, everybody, that's what we think. Those are a bunch of movies that just aren't being talked about enough. Let us know what you think of those if you've seen them down in the comments below. And also let us know what movies you think are not being talked about enough. Click like and subscribe. Stick around CineFix. We'll see you next time.